After Iran launched a massive missile strike against neighboring countries, the United States made a rapid decision to hit Iranian bunkers where ballistic missiles were stored. The aircraft selected for this mission were B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. The maintenance crews had very little time to prepare. Work began in the evening and continued through the entire night. The bombers were towed out of their hangars and positioned on the airfield. Fuel trucks arrived and connected their hoses to begin filling the tanks. The B-2 carries approximately 167,000 pounds of fuel. Even with full tanks, that is not enough to fly from an American airfield, reach targets deep inside Iran, and return. The bomber will need several aerial refueling stops along the route. The work on the airfield did not stop through the night. Ground crew dragged portable pumping stations across the tarmac from one aircraft to the next. The pumps are heavy, the hoses are heavy, and everything has to be connected, disconnected, and reconnected constantly. One moment the pump is hooked up to a fuel truck filling the line. The next, it is being dragged across to the aircraft and connected to the fueling port on the fuselage. Gauges are watched, the tank fills. Then the hose is disconnected, the cap sealed, and the whole setup is pulled to the next aircraft in line. While the aircraft were being prepared, the pilots were also getting ready for the mission ahead. The B-2s would not fly alone. An escort group was assigned to accompany them, F-35 Lightning II and a V-8B Harrier II fighters that would provide cover along the route, rotating in and out at different stages of the flight as fresh escort aircraft replace those running low on fuel. The pilots get ready without rushing. They know they have plenty of time. They chat with each other, put on their protective gear, and check their oxygen masks.
Okay, now.
At dawn, the pilots suited up and headed to their aircraft. The flight would be long and demanding, hours in the cockpit with multiple refueling operations, complex navigation, and a strike run into heavily defended territory. Every piece of personal equipment was checked. Flight suits, G-suits, helmets, oxygen systems, survival vests. The fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits, strapped in, and started their engines. One by one, they taxied out and lined up on the runway. The B-2 pilots did the same. The massive flying wing bombers rolled slowly out of their parking spots and onto the taxiway. They moved to the runway one after another, paused at the threshold, brought the engines to full power, and began their takeoff rolls. The pilot of the accompanying F-35 Lightning jet also prepared for takeoff. He boarded the aircraft, fastened his seatbelt, and taxied onto the runway. The B-2s lifted off and climbed steadily into the morning sky. Once airborne, the formation assembled. The B-2 bombers flew in the center with the escort fighters positioned alongside them. The group headed east, maintaining altitude and formation as they crossed over open water. During the flight, the B-2s rendezvoused with a tanker aircraft for their first aerial refueling. The bomber moved in behind the tanker, the boom operator extended the refueling boom, and it connected to the receptacle on the top of the B-2's fuselage. Fuel flowed. The process took several minutes. Once the tanks were topped off, the boom disconnected, the B-2 dropped back from the tanker and continued on its route toward the target. This procedure would repeat several more times before the bomber reached Iranian airspace. Meanwhile, at the Allied military base in the desert, helicopters were being refueled in preparation for their next sortie. Ground crews connected fuel hoses and pumped kerosene into the tanks of transport and attack helicopters lined up on the runway. These helicopters were being sent to the Middle East to support operations near the border area. Soldiers formed up in columns near the helicopters and began boarding. They climbed in through the rear ramps and side doors with full combat gear: weapons, body armor, packs, ammunition. Some helicopters were still being loaded with additional cargo after the troops were seated. Crates of ammunition, spare parts, medical supplies, and other equipment were strapped down in the cargo holds alongside the soldiers. The helicopters lifted off one after another and headed out. The helicopters took them to a forward position in the Middle East. Upon landing, the soldiers exited the helicopters, unloaded the cargo, and immediately began setting up camp. Tents went up, defensive positions were dug, communications equipment was assembled, and a perimeter was established. Within hours, the empty ground was a functioning base with soldiers in position, supplies stacked, and weapons ready. The helicopters that brought them in refueled from portable fuel bladders on the ground and lifted off again to make more runs.